comes down at the end of the day, I always say this, are you willing to do what is necessary? I know it sound like a broken record. This is something which I've been preaching for years on socials. Are you really willing to do what is necessary? And I think that's why it's so important. When you lose your confidence, I think, and it ties into what you said about the self-audit, maybe just having a look, okay, what are my goals? What is my vision? How bad do I want it? Okay, good day, everyone, or good evening, wherever you guys are in the world. And we just want to welcome you guys to another episode on our Lessons from the Game podcast. And today we'll be doing our short form episode. So that's the goal of our podcast, is every week we'll have an episode with a guest, doing a long form podcast and also doing the short form. But I'm rambling about. Let me check in with my man, Ben. Ben, how you doing, brother? You good?
Yeah, good G. Yeah, what about you, mate?
Ah, man, great. Had a great game of paddle this morning. I wasn't great. First set was tough. Second set, my wheels fell off, and I'm still having a bit of, how can I say, fear of redoing my calves. So I'm kind of like managing my space, or my pace actually, and not going too fast. But super chuffed about today's topic. You're actually the one that pushed it forward, how to build confidence. You know, we've been receiving messages. You've been receiving a message. You'll talk more about that from a player, how he can build confidence. Players that I work with on my coaching platform, it's something we are constantly dealing with. Coach, I'm lacking confidence. How can I get confidence? It's a question a lot of players are asking. So, yeah, this was your topic. What was one of the reasons you wanted to chat about it, man?
Yeah, I think it comes up a lot. And you hear coaches talking about it. You hear players talking about it. You hear people in their everyday walk talking about it. And you hear coaches say some strange things like, oh, he's a confidence player, as if it's only some people that need confidence or some people who rely. And some people talk about it as if it's something that you inherently have, or you should have, or you can't build. And I think there's so much out there that we can talk about that will help the individual, regardless of what they do, gain confidence, build confidence, incrementally get better every day, so their confidence improves and their performances improve.
Yeah, a lot of people have this misconception that confidence is just something that you have. If you're talented, you got it. It just happens, just a decision, and that's not the case. Now, confidence needs to be earned. It needs to be earned. That confidence is a result of your efforts, if you put it that way. And we both have different philosophies, Ben, but a lot of them are similar. And I just spoke, I actually just did a coaching call 30 minutes earlier, and I was speaking to this player. He was getting frustrated because he's only got the end game in mind. He's looking for that dominance and in the collisions, in the set piece, but he's not having that ability to identify the small wins. And he doesn't realize, change, if you want to get confidence, it takes time. It's not just, okay, let me work on a skill for 1 week and next week it's going to be fine. Or if I made that conscious decision that I want to be better this week in my tackling, that it's going to happen. It takes 100%. Effort, it takes time. But yeah, man. So, Ben, is there any stories that you can share? Maybe there's something that you, either someone you've been working with, or maybe some of your personal experience where you lack confidence, maybe?
Yeah, I think it becomes, so there's several elements to this. I think knowing yourself is really important. So we talk about taking that sort of personal audit. So knowing yourself, knowing what your strengths are, knowing what you bring to the party, I think that's really important, because then you can break down your own game and then you can develop them. Because I think so often people, they lose confidence because of comparison. So they start comparing themselves to things that other people do or other players do. And then they say, well, I don't do that as well. Or a coach might compare you. And it's really important we know who we are, what we bring. So, if I'm a back rower, for example, maybe ball carrying isn't my strength. And I had this situation with a player a few months ago, and I said to him, but I'm not really, what are you going to do to be in the team? Why do you get selected? And he's really good at affecting change at the breakdown. He does sort of averages about 3 turnovers a game at the breakdown. So there's just, first of all, you got to know yourself. Stop comparing yourself to somebody doing a different job with different skill set, with different strengths. and then you got to be really, really good and get better. And then obviously there's loads of processes that you put in place. So we identify his strengths, and that's sort of a first step for me.
Yeah, man, that's brilliant. And I like the way it's going. I think taking the time to analyze yourself. And what I always tell players, we often say identify your strengths and your weaknesses. I don't like that. Like it's important to identify your strengths, but I don't like the word weaknesses. So I like to change the language a bit and rather saying you need to identify your work-ons. What are those extras that you need to do to get better?
Yeah, that's good.
But also, and we've spoken about this before, you got to amplify your strengths, not having your sole focus just on your weakness. I spoke to one of our coaches this morning, and even us as coaches, sometimes we make the mistakes. We're giving so much information to players. So, right, you need to work on this, and then you will be better in this area. But sometimes we forget to tell a player, all right, this is what you're doing well. You're a devastating ball carrier. So what do we need to do? You need to get more ball in your hands, right? So that means you need to scan quicker. You need to work earlier. You need to work when you don't have the ball so you can get in that position. But I'm not going to repeat what you just said. So what I want to say right now is that you got to double down on your strengths. You got to amplify those strengths.
Yeah.
You got to identify your work-ons. You got to push yourself. And then the next step is for me, you got to build a plan. All right. If you want to build confidence, you need to know what you need. And you only build confidence through working hard, training hard, repeated efforts, consistent efforts because sometimes you might not be mastering a certain area and you need to master that area so that you can build confidence. And always use this as an example. Sometimes you get a prop that is losing confidence in the scrum. He's starting to have what we say scrum anxieties, more focused on the fear of getting smashed or getting stuffed up in the scrum than actually focusing on what he should be doing to dominate in the scrum. The same with the hooker in the line-out, precious situation, one or two throw-ins not going his way and then just goes completely down this negative spiral. So, in terms of the next steps, that would definitely be, build your plan, but most importantly, build a team around you. So that means, who do I need? I want to build confidence in a certain area. Who do I need to work with? Who need to chat with? What advice do I need? I think that's important. So, yeah. What do you think of that, Ben?
I love that. Yeah, I think having a team around you, having that support network, and having people. That support network sounds like it's a big phrase, but basically, just anybody that can say, look, you're overthinking this sometimes. Stop, compare. Look at your progress. Look how far you've come, or no, you're good at this, and having those people are constant. They're not too over the top when you do something okay, and vice versa. They don't, they're not going to write you off when you make one mistake. And having that support network and people around you is important. I think, people talk about processes versus outcomes, and I think that's really, really important. So if you're going to go and improve something, as a prop, you might say, look, I'm going to do an extra 20 scrums a week, and practice that, or you'll break that down and you might build a daily action that's going to give you confidence. So, okay, I actually need to develop in the gym, I'm going to work on my deadlift or my squat, and I'm going to put on, 20 to 40 kilos on those lifts, for example, and I'm going to do this type of live move, or I'm going to, whatever it might be. And then you have a daily action of how you're going to get there. And when you put those processes in place, then, you can take the mindset, okay, well, the outcome's going to take care of itself because I'm doing the work every day in my processes that are going to deliver the outcome that I want on the weekend. And I think that's really important. So when you've done that audit, when you've got that to take those, what are the daily processes that I can put in place that are going to build my confidence and allow me to not worry about the outcome, because that will worry about it. So that will take care of itself.
I totally agree. I, for example, I use this as a coach. I've got a blueprint for the week. Like, what should I be doing as a coach to make sure that my team performs? What should the players be doing so that they can perform? Obviously, I like to get them to do it on their own, kind of identifying and on their own time and be like autonomous, if we can put it that way. But it comes down at the end of the day, I always say this, are you willing to do what is necessary? I know it sound like a broken record. This is something which I've been preaching for years on socials. Are you really willing to do what is necessary? And I think that's why it's so important. When you lose your confidence, I think, and it ties into what you said about the self-audit, maybe just having a look, okay, what are my goals? What is my vision? How bad do I want it? If I take us, for example, we were on and off getting this podcast going. And if I think it was in the beginning of January, we just said, listen here, it's now or never, 6 weeks, let's go. We both have busy lives. And just for everybody listening or watching, Ben and I, we got other work to do. Like, we have other priorities. For example, myself and my club gets first priority. The only time I'm recording podcasts, if I got an hour gap somewhere in the week, or if I got a bit of a break, a bit of a holiday, but that does not interfere with my priority. I'm doing this as a passion project. I'm enjoying this. I'm loving it. Who knows where this podcast is going to lead to, but you need to have that blueprint, but you need to commit to the hard work. You need to commit to the effort.
Yeah, it's a great example, G, because with this podcast, I hadn't thought of doing that as an example, because I was thinking purely athletic examples. But of the podcast, so we had an intentionality. We both said, look, either we're going to talk and be talkers, or we're going to be doers. And then we were like, okay, well, we're going to do the podcast. And then we talked about a deadline, and we both said, well, let's give ourselves a hard deadline. Let's give ourselves a deadline that's almost it's almost impossible, because then we will make it happen. And
for sure,
I think and there's something about that that's powerful. And then you have the accountability between us. That was powerful as well.
Yeah,
because we, and that helps build confidence, I think. And then we both knew that the first one wouldn't be perfect, but we made some
mistakes.
We're making mistakes, bro. We're making mistakes.
We're making mistakes.
but we know it will improve. Like, our process is, and we just worry about the process. We reflect on what we do after every pod, after every conversation. We reflect. We feedback honestly. We have transparent feedback to one another, and therefore the outcome will take care of itself.
No, it's good. Actually, you mentioned when we spoke to Anthony Watts about that instant feedback that you're going to, or other players that have retired. Sometimes what they miss is that instant feedback. And I actually realized the other day how lucky I am. After each podcast, we jump quickly on a 5-minute call. Sometimes it's longer. So I always love it. It's like, so Ben, what do you think? And then you always like, what do you think? Let's be honest, man. Sometimes I've said things and maybe, it was tough to hear. And likewise, you telling me, but because we were obsessed with the process and not the result, we're not looking for perfection right now. All we were looking for consistency. And at the time of recording this short form episode, I think we've recorded now about 16 or 17 episodes already. Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, Ben, by being consistent in this, which has nothing to do directly with my job, has given me so much energy into my primary role as a coach at my club. Yeah. I'm handling certain situations better because I've seen now by being consistent. And, sometimes when we start something or when we're at a certain point, let's say you have lost confidence and this is your starting point, you down and out, you're right at the bottom and you want to be dominating your space again and dominating the collisions or the set piece or hitting those gaps or catching the high balls. And sometimes that gap, it seems to be so far apart between your starting point and what you want to achieve that sometimes you don't get started and sometimes you just give up. And, the result is, if I think about it, I've learned new words on this podcast. We are slightly better articulated than we were before, mumbling our words. And, it's a massive improvement. But I do believe one of the keys is you've got to commit to the hard work. You've got to put in that effort. And it's not being about crazy. You obviously need to listen to your body. But there's a difference between I don't feel like doing it or I'm not capable of doing it right now. I think that's a massive difference.
You made a really good point as well, G, because I think when you talk about the support network, you and I, when we have the accountability to one another, I ultimately know it's because you want me to be successful. And so if you say something, it's because it affects the success of both of us doing this and the viability of it carrying on, etc. So that's really important that you do have those people around you, whatever you do, they're not going to tell you one thing and then behind your back say something else. And also there's that great expression, which I'm probably going to butcher now. But it's, don't take criticism from somebody you want to go to advice from, And you
told
want
that
to get
from one
advice
of our
from.
guests.
Yeah, I think so, maybe. But that's the whole point of this. We're bringing all the knowledge and sharing it with
No,
people.
no, okay, it's a chat, it's a conversation. Yes, we've made some notes. I've got some notes
Yeah,
here as well. But it's a free flowing conversation, and
but
that's so important. Who's in your corner? And something simple. I'll tell you that sometimes I'm tired and I'm just feeling a bit down. I'll speak to a mate and I'll be energized again. Or when after our chats, or speaking to my wife, I always tell my wife this funny story. I tell her, like, you know what? It changes everything when I'm speaking to you on the phone and you're so friendly. Your tone of voice gives me so energy. But when you get those, yes, yeah, okay, you get those short answers, like you're the dog box there. It's
uh-oh.
like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
makes them
yeah.
mad. But I think it comes down to, Ben, you need to make to differentiate who are the people that are giving you energy and who's the
Yeah.
people that's draining you. Those energy sappers or energy vampires. We spoke about it with Joe. That's important. But I think when you're building confidence, don't forget to set clear goals. But
Yeah.
before achieving those goals, there are certain milestones. Maybe you would like to elaborate. I know that's your
Yeah,
forte.
I think there's a couple of things I was going to say. So that progressing, journaling your progress, I think is really
Yes.
important, because sometimes we might not be confident, and then because the nature of the competitor, I think, is with a lot of the people you and I deal with or speak with, and people who've
Yes.
asked us questions, they're competitors, and and when you're a competitor, you're like, it's often like nothing is, it's not good enough. You achieve something and you're looking forward, you're looking at the next thing and the next thing, and only when you stop and you look in the journal, you go, hold on, I'm not very happy, I don't feel very confident. And then you look back and then you reflect and you go, well, actually 3 months ago I couldn't do that skill, or I was only making 10 tackles a game, but now I'm making 12. Or I was only, my percentage of success at tackle percent, it's improved, or my scrum percentage is improved, or whatever it might be, the skill that you're talking about. And so when you reflect and you journal, I think that gives you a really good opportunity to take stock and say, no, I am moving forward. And that has an unbelievable effect on your confidence, because you can see that it's a journey and that you're on the right path.
No, I think it's important. I want to maybe bounce on top of that, Ben. Recently I learned this technique called bullet journaling. So I journal as well. When I wake up in the morning, what I want to achieve, I get my mind. So I call it morning mindset. So getting what are my goals that I want to achieve? What are the priorities? What are my fears for the day? What could potentially go wrong? Who should I be connecting with? Who should I impact today? But sometimes that tends to take time, and even in the evenings, doing an evening review, what did I do well? What can I improve on? What could have made my day better if I didn't? I would write that off, and it's the same answer. Gee, you should have stopped at 500 grams of chicken wings. You shouldn't have had the second 500 grams. You fat
uh,
bastard. But anyway,
yeah.
that's just, but the bullet
I,
journaling is quite cool because with this, what I like about the concept, I'm still new to it. It's very simple. It's writing down bullet points. So you don't have to write down full paragraphs. And it's breaking into a few categories so it's your thoughts or things that you want to remember. It's actions instead of tasks. So we all have this long task. I've got an application here. I think it's called Things. I'm using that for when I need to remind myself of something. I put it on Things. And then I got ClickUp for my blueprints for the week. And at some stage, like all these lists are so long and you get confused. And what I liked about the bullet journal is that it's simple. I would just write down what are the actions. So the actions is what are the actions that you need to take today to take you closer to your goals. And if I have to quickly review, for example, going back to Saturday, which was game day. So one of the main actions that I need to take on game day, this was the Saturday, was send players quality information, send them targeted clips of their opponents, have quick connections with the players. And then also, like one of the actions, I had to go for a run because I needed to free up my mind. And now the great thing is I can go quickly, and if I'm browsing through it, I can say, okay, I had a good night's rest. Okay, there, I did a NSDR, non-sleep deep rest protocol, which we often see on the Andrew Huberman podcast. I can talk here about what was said in the team talk before the game. I made certain notes, but then also I wrote some highlights down, like, I had a great chat with my colleague, we had a great connection when we spent some quality time, and that's a great, that's why I need to, this is not bullet journaling, but when it comes down to building confidence, I would advise you to keep a bullet journal. So, all right, this is where I'm at. This is my tackle percentage. This is the amount of tackles that I made. This is the amount of dominant carries I had. 2 weeks back, I was only at 1 carry, or I was losing the space. But I think we're going a bit all over the place, but you need to really assess what you need to do in order to become better.
Yeah.
That's get back your confidence. Like, what are the repeated skills or repeated efforts I need to do on a weekly basis to build that confidence?
Yeah, and when you record those things, so you've recorded some of the outcomes because you've been putting in the processes beforehand. But for anybody listening, once you've done that audit, you've worked out your strengths, you maybe worked out your long, medium, and short-term goals. They come back to daily actions. And those daily actions, you're also going to record in that journal. So, for example, you did an extra 10 minutes of tackling practice after the session on a Tuesday and on a Thursday. Well, when you look back after a month and you've done 2 extra, 20 minutes extra every week, over a season, that adds up. But you can say, okay, well, I did 10 minutes on that day, I did 10 minutes that day, and I did another 5 minutes that, before you know it all, and that gives you confidence as well. But I think that's really important. The other things that I was going to say was, just when you do that, you have a feeling that you've left nothing to chance. So I remember doing, when I was playing still, there's a hill in Wimbledon Common, in Wimbledon in London, and it's this track, and it's not very good to run on, but it's quite horrible. And I used to go there on Christmas Day, and regardless of the weather. And I remember I can vividly see it now. I went there one morning, and I'd go before everybody else is up in the house, and I'd go. And for me, it was not maybe the most scientific session I ever did, but I used to do intervals up. And I remember going and doing this session in the snow. I've actually had to wear my moldies because I can't wear my trainers because I've got no grip. And it's like 350 meters. And I've done maybe 10, 12 reps of this thing. But I knew that in my mind, I said to myself, I'm training harder than anybody else. And it just built confidence within me. I was like, nobody else is doing this at 6 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Day. Nobody else. And whether that's right or wrong, I told myself that, and it just gave me so much confidence, because I was like, when I'm in that dark spot on the field, no, I have got this in the bag, because like 2 weeks ago when everybody else was eating, I was actually putting in that hard work. And that when you leave no stone unturned, that can give you a really big confidence boost.
Yeah, train in the dark so you can shine in the light. I like that one.
Boom. Yeah.
Ben, we already gone over time. We said we need to keep this less than 20 minutes. So just one thing I would like to add before I just quickly summarize what we've spoken about, and you just jump in. But one of the big things I've shared on other podcasts as well, belief drives behavior. If you're not believing what you're doing will help you to achieve your desired result, there's no purpose. You got to back yourself. I mean, I was super inspired. I just watched an episode now of Cobra Kai. All right, they're doing the Sai Kai tournament, and like, I can't even remember the guy's name. He had no confidence in himself. He thought he was going to lose, and then he ended up winning, Anyway, great story. But going completely off. But you got to believe drives. I messed that one up completely. Belief drives behavior. But most importantly, you need to recognize those small wins, those momentum shifts. And it takes me back to when in 2010, I got humiliated in 2009 by Castro Giovanni in the scrum. Everybody knows this story. I got smashed, got dominated, went into hiding for 2 weeks in Europe and in England. And, just I had a good time. All right, won't go into detail what I was doing. But I started working, started grafting. I started going hard in the weights room. I was focusing on improving my strength and my power, my mobility. I'm becoming super fit. And then we played that warm-up game. We've been training hard. I've been feeling good in training. And then the warm-up game came, and I didn't really dominate. It was just neutral scrums. And I was so pissed off. And then at some stage, I'm like, listen, G, you got smashed 2 months ago. Yeah, you played against a heavy prop, was weighing 140 kgs. You had good shot quality. You were great intensity on the engage. You didn't go backwards. Maybe you didn't dominate. But listen here, that's good pictures. And then it built from there onwards. And then eventually the Bulls team became one of the first packs in Super Rugby to actually go for the double shot, because that was something which we didn't really do in the Super Rugby era. But Ben, I want to resume quickly, and you tell me if I missed something up. You got to start, and just for those of you listening or watching, I hope you guys are taking notes or just listen to the podcast again. It starts with that self-audit, that self-identifying your strengths and what areas you need to work on. Number 2, you need to double down, okay, on your strengths or your superpower. You need to amplify, make sure that it stands out. Build your plan, create your team, or build your team. All right, you need to do that. Make sure that you get that right. You know what you need to do. You know what's the process that you'll be following on this journey to build back your confidence. Then you need to commit to working hard. You need to be consistent in your efforts. Then set clear goals and milestones. Recognize those small wins and momentum shifts. And then belief drives behavior. And the most important, which Ben just said, track your progress. Journal your progress. All right, I hope was there anything that I left out there?
Good summary. Like it.
Thanks. I wrote that down.
Yeah.
I'm quite proud of that. Nice and organized.
It's good, mate.
Okay, awesome stuff. Anything you'd like to share with our audience before we sign off, Ben?
Nah, it's good. It's really good.
Come on. He's too shy, so I'm going to do it for him. If you want to connect with Ben, he's based in the UK. So if you got a team, you want to level up your performance in certain key areas, then give him a shout. He's available, loves coaching. He's an avid coach and he's helping a lot of players, footballers and rugby players at the moment, helping them to achieve their goals. So reach out. You can hit him up on his DM as well, Ben Pegna. We will share his link in the show notes if you guys want to check it out, but most of you guys are following us anyway. And for those of you that want to connect with me on a personal note as well, join my private community, Coach G Online. The link is in my bio on my Instagram page, and I normally do weekly calls over there. So, but anyway, I would love to get some feedback from you guys. If you're on Spotify, there's a comment section. Leave your comments. What would you like us to talk about? Give us some feedback. And also like the episode and subscribe to it, please. So that will help us to grow the show and really take it to another level and hopefully gain more credibility as podcasters so we can get those crazy guests. Maybe we can get the president on one day. Who knows?
Which president? Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It just has to be a president of a country or club. I didn't specify.
Nice.
All right. Okay, guys, look after yourself. Hope you guys are doing well. Take care. And remember, chase your dreams, chase your goals. All right. Ciao.